Hello and welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with Meet Kit. Chapter 2, Read All About It. Kit's real name was Margaret Mildred Kitteridge. She was named after her mother and an aunt of her dad's. But when she was very little, her dad used to sing her a song that went like this. Pack up your troubles in your old kickback and smile, boys, smile. It was a song he learned when he was a soldier fighting in the Great War. Kit loved it. She'd beg her dad, sing my song, sing the Kit song. Pretty soon, everyone began to call her Kit, which was short for Kitteridge, and the name stuck. Kit didn't like the name Margaret Mildred anyway. It didn't fit her. It was too flouncy. Kit was not a flouncy girl. Right now, she was feeling especially exasperated with flounces, because the stool she was sitting on was covered with them. Ruthie and the garden club ladies had left, and Kit was finishing her newspaper for Dad. Kit had to sit with one leg bent under her to reach the typewriter because the new fancy stool was soft as a marshmallow and too low. Kit rolled her newspaper out of the typewriter and read it. She was very pleased with her headline, "The Howards are coming." That ought to get Dad's attention. Under the headline, Kit had written, Kit was struggling with the drawing of two Mrs. Wilmores when she learned the car's orange cheery honk honk that signaled her favorite moment of the day. Dad was home from work. Kit snatched up her newspaper, flew downstairs, and burst out the door. Extra, extra, read all about it, she shouted, waving her newspaper as Dad climbed out of his car. Dad caught up in Kit's arms. How's my girl? He asked. Great, said Kit when her feet were back on the ground. Look, I've got a newspaper for you today. Ho ho, said Dad. His blue eyes were twinkly. He smiled a broad smile, and he took Kit's newspaper and handed her the real one. He read Kit's headline in a booming voice. The Howards are coming. Then he glanced at Kit and spoke in his normal voice. Are they coming for dinner? No, said Kit. It's better than that. Read the whole story. Kit watched as Dad's eyes scanned the story. She noticed, much to her surprise, that his smile faded as he read. When Dad spoke, his voice sounded funny, as if he was trying too hard to be hearty. Well, he said, that is big news. He gave Kit's hair a gentle tug. I'm a lucky guy to have my own personal reporter to keep me on top of these late-breaking stories, he said. Come on, sweetheart, let's get the details from your mother. Grown-ups are funny, Kit thought as she walked along Dad. They don't react the way you expect them to. Anyone would think that Dad was not pleased that the Howards were coming to stay, but why on earth wouldn't he be? Two days later, Kit and Ruthie were sitting on the front steps waiting for Sterling and Mrs. Howard to arrive. The girls were reading while they waited. At least Ruthie was reading. Kit was too distracted. She was really just looking at pictures in her book. Kit's copy of Robin Hood and His Adventures had belonged to Charlie when he was her age. It had wonderful illustrations which Kit loved to study. She loved reading about the tree houses that Robin and his men lived in. The houses were connected by swinging bridges and catwalks made out of vines. Kit longed to sleep in a tree house high near the sky, surrounded by leaves. She imagined that at night, stars peeked through the leaf and the wind made the branches sway. Kit had spent many hours drawing plans for a treehouse that she and Ruthie could build. Kit was not very good at sketching. Her drawings always looked like dog houses stuck up in trees. They didn't look anything like the tree houses in Sherwood Forest. I bet, said Kit, that Sterling can help us build a tree house. Said Ruthie with the tiniest hint of irritation as being erupted when she was deep in the story of Beauty and the Beast. It was hot, and the girls were licking chunks of ice that had been chipped off the big block of ice in the icebox. Kit had her catcher's mitt with her, too. She wanted Sterling to see right away that she was interested in books and baseball and was not the type of girl who only cared about things like dusting and baking and dresses. Kit's ice chunk had melted to a silver at last. A cab pulled up at the end of the driveway. Kit and Ruthie stood up and waited politely on the front steps. The cab door opened, and Mrs. Howard and a boy got out. When she saw Sterling, Kit felt as if someone had dropped an ice chip down her back. She was so surprised. Ruthie whistled softly. "I thought your mother said that Sterling was about your age," she whispered. "He looks like he's in kindergarten." Sterling stood next to the cab on two of the skinniest legs Kit had ever seen. He was so short and pale and skinny all over. His head looked too big for his scrawny neck. The screen door opened and Mother came out of the house. She stood between Kit and Ruthie and put her hands on her shoulders. "Mother," whispered Kit indignantly, "Sterling's a shrimp." "Now, Kit," said Mother, "Sterling is small for his age because his health is delicate. But I'm sure he's a very pleasant fellow." Gently, she pushed the girls forward. "Come along, ladies," she said. "Let's go greet our guests and make them feel welcome." Kit and Ruthie and Mother walked along down the steps and toward the driveway. Mrs. Howard and the cab driver were unloading boxes and suitcases from the cab. Sterling just stood there. "Oh," said Mrs. Howard, all aflutter. "Margaret, you're such a dear to have us." She turned to Sterling. "Shake hands with Mrs. Kitteridge, Lambie," she said, "and say hello to Kit and Ruthie." Sterling shook Mother's hand and nodded at the girls. He looked even worse close up. He had colorless hair, colorless eyes, and a red runny nose. Kit towered over him, and Ruth could have made two of him, he was so puny. "Oh dear," fussed Mrs. Howard. "All this excitement is not good for Sterling, the poor lamb. He'll have to lie down right away and rest." "Oh, right. Oh, of course," said Mother. "Come with me and we'll get all settled." Kit and Ruthie stood on the driveway and watching as Mrs. Howard and propelled Sterling into the house. The cab driver followed them, carrying an armload of suitcases and boxes. As soon as they were gone, Kit turned to Ruthie and intimidated Sterling. She snuffled her nose and made her eyes wide and unblinking. Ruthie giggled, and then she said, "Of course in fairy tales you can always learn not to judge by appearances. Lots of times perfectly nice people are under a spell. Think of Beauty and the Beast." But over the next few days, it was clear to Kit that Ruthie's Beauty and the Beast story didn't work in real life. At least not in Sterling's case. He never said a word, but then he didn't have to. His mother did all the talking, and most of her sentences began with "Sterling can't." When Kit and Ruthie invited Sterling to run through Springfield with them, Mrs. Howard said, "Sterling can't be in the sun because his skin is so fair, and Sterling can't run because he has weak lungs. Sterling can't get wet because he might catch a chill, and Sterling can't play in the yard because he's allergic to bee stings." Kit abandoned any idea of Sterling helping with a treehouse or playing catch. Pretty soon, Kit and Ruthie gave up on inviting Sterling to do anything, because the answer was always, "Sterling can't." At first, Kit thought Mrs. Howard was making the whole thing about how fragile Sterling was. It wasn't as if he has a sickness like rickets or scurvy or any of the really interesting diseases Kit knew about from reading pirate stories. Sterling didn't even have spots or rashes. However, after he had been there a week, Sterling got truly sick. Though it was only a cold, he did have a fever and a terrible cough. Mrs. Howard said he had to stay in bed and have all his meals brought to him on a tray. Kit could hear Sterling coughing and sniffling and blowing his nose all day long. Everyone had to tiptoe past the door to his room so they wouldn't disturb Sterling in case he was napping. Kit held her nose when she passed by because the hall outside his room smelled strongly of Vicks Vapor Rub, even though the door was always shut. But one afternoon, Kit noticed that the door to the guest room was open. She sneaked a peek inside. Sterling was propped up against pillows, and Mrs. Howard was nowhere to be seen. Of course, it was hard to see anything in the room. It was so dark because the shades were pulled down. Kit stood in the doorway and looked at Sterling's moonlight face on the pillow. "Gosh, it sure is stuffy in here," Kit said to Sterling. "Don't you want me to open the window or something?" Sterling nodded. Kit opened a crack to that breath of air and a line of sunlight came through. "That's better," she said. Kit turned to go. She was halfway through the door when she saw a photograph next to Sterling's bed that stopped her in her tracks. "Hey," she said, "is that Ernie Lombardi, the catcher for the Reds? Sterling's round eyes were unblinking as an owl as he looked at Kit. His nose was stuffed up, and so his voice sounded weirdly low and husky. Schnoz, he croaked. For a second, Kit didn't understand. Then she laughed and nodded. Schnoz, she said. That's Ernie Lombardi's nickname because has such a big nose. In answer, Sterling blew his nose, which made a nice honking sound. Kit laughed again. Ernie Lombardi is my favorite catcher on the Cincinnati Reds, she said. He's the reason I'm a catcher. Well, because my dad was a star catcher on his college team. Did you know that Ernie's the biggest guy on the Red? 6'3", whispered Sterling hoarsely. 230 pounds. Right, said Kit, delighted. She rattled on. It's funny that you like him, she said, because he's so big and you're so little. That's why, said Sterling simply. He didn't sound the least bit offended, even though right after he spoke, Kit realized she said something she shouldn't have. You know what, said Kit, suddenly inspired. I have a newspaper article about Ernie Lombardi. It has a photograph of him holding 7 baseballs in one hand at the same time. It used to be tacked up against my wall. Mother wouldn't let me put it back after my room was painted pink. But I bet I can find it. Want to see it? Sterling nodded vigorously, and Kit noticed that his eyes weren't colorless at all. They were gray. Okay, she said, I'll give you the article, and you can read all about it. Kit tore back to her room and rummaged through the newspaper drawers of her desk. Where was that newspaper article with the photo of Schnoz? She hoped Mother hadn't thrown it away. Scrambling wildly through the bottom of the door, Kit found the scrap of newspaper at last. She raced back to Sterling's room, shouting, I found it. Kit flung open the door, and bam! The door hit Mrs. Howard, who was standing right behind a silver tray with her hands. My land! Shrieked Mrs. Howard. She looked forward with the tray, which was one of Mother's best China teacups and saucers on it, and went flying. The hot tea sloshed over the rug. The cup hit the floor and shattered, and the tray clanged to the ground with a noise like cymbals. Oh dear, flushed Mrs. Howard. At the same time, Sterling started to cough loudly. Kit tried to apologize in a voice louder than his cough, and Charlie appeared and added to the commotion by asking, what happened? What's all this noise? They were all talking at once when Mother came in. Good gracious, she said above all the racket. Now what? Everyone stopped talking, even Mrs. Howard. Everyone stopped talking, even Mrs. Howard. Will someone please tell me what's going on? Asked Mother, not sounding like her usual serene self. Everyone looked at Kit. Kit knew that Mother disliked messes, so when she tried to explain how this one was just an accident. I was coming in here to show Sterling my picture of Ernie Lombardi, she said, and I didn't know that Mrs. Howard was right behind the door. I was in a hurry, and Mother held up her hand to stop Kit. Don't tell me, she said. I can imagine the rest. She shook her head. How many times have I told you to slow down and walk to where you're going, Kit? I'm sorry, said Kit. Kit stood down to pick up the broken cup. Just look what you've done, she said. Kit was shocked. It wasn't like Mother to scold her like this. But it wasn't my fault, she protested. It was an accident. It was nobody's fault. Nobody's fault, rehaled Mother, and yet look at the mess we are in. She looked up at Kit. Please go now, she said. I'll help Mrs. Howard clean up. And Kit, dear, please don't barge in here bothering Sterling and making messes anymore. But I didn't, Kit began. That's enough, Kit, said Mother. Go now. Kit gave up. She turned on her heel and stormed back to her room. Mother seemed to think that the mess was all her fault, but it wasn't. She didn't mean to knock into Mrs. Howard. Stupid old Sterling was more to blame for the mess than Kit was. If he weren't sick, his mother wouldn't have been bringing him hot tea in the middle of the afternoon in the first place. Kit flung herself down on the desk and looked at the wrinkled newspaper in her hand. What did it matter that the photo of Ernie Lombardi holding 7 baseballs was all crumpled up? She couldn't put it back on her pink walls. She sure wasn't going to show it to Sterling. She was going to try to be nice to sniffle Sterling ever again. Look at the trouble he caused her. Nothing made Kit more angry than being unjustly accused. She didn't mind a good fair fight, but to be blamed for something that wasn't her fault, that she could not understand. In books, when people are accused of crimes they didn't commit, someone like Nancy Drew or Dick Tracy always came around and proved they were innocent. Kit could see that in her case she was going to have to speak for herself. She knew how to do it too. She would write a special newspaper for Dad. Then at least one person would know her side of the story. Kit rolled a piece of paper into a typewriter. In capital letters, she typed the headline, "It's Not Fair." And that's the end of that chapter. See you later.